My beautiful stars in the night sky, I welcome you to this space. I honor the fact that some of you may not resonate with this, and that's totally okay. Don't worry about it. For those who are new, welcome, welcome. For those who have been here before, welcome back. More often than not, as a Sagittarian, I have a lot of diverse interests, and I am a natural born philosopher and mental wanderer. So I'll go in my own mind and think about all kinds of sorts of things. So you're never quite sure what you'll find here, but I'm sure you'll find something of interest. Always feel free. I always advise to check that disclaimer before I really get going into anything, but I've been having a lot of interesting thoughts and playing with ideas about Kali, Loki, and Odin. In my mind, I see them as very alive and animated, telling me stories, whether they are from actual things I've read or a different version of something. They'll admit to me that there are these alternate realities, and at one point access to these different storylines became very confusing for us folk, as humans, and so we had to close down the doors for any alternative thoughts, and because it was so dark and confusing and scary, that too much information was just incorrect information. It was dangerous because of the fact that we had lost some important skills and our hearts were closing up, and to know more would have caused further harm in what was going on in our development as human beings. And more often than not, like they'll tell me this stuff when I least expect it, and it's not to be anything like a braggart or anything. It's just that I've always been a lover of stories, and I would kind of like say, can you tell me more? Can you tell me more? I just want to know more stories. I love your stories. You have to tell me. And Mimir used to chat with me a little bit more frequently, and sometimes he'll come back around again, and I always like his alternative spin on things. And he'll sometimes tell me a little bit about Odin, and he'll say, there's this thing that sometimes happens for some gods where it's kind of on purpose and kind of not, where they go through a period of forgetfulness of their own godhood. And there's a version of them behind it too at the same time, which is really fascinating. But they say they'll create this persona that's forgotten themselves to play out a divine theater play for us so we can grow and learn things. And it's really kind of cool how he's like, yeah, like, so if you think like there's that if you know that Odin, you actually don't know the true Odin behind that persona. And so you have to actually be kind of alert to the fact that he's teaching you something. And if you're not willing to be alert to that, then you're going to miss out on the point of it all. And then you're also too not going to actually find out that there's a God behind the God. Give me a minute. And so this is kind of a cool concept. Not, I think, for those who like things in orderly boxes. if that's kind of like your thing, like it helps you feel better, don't worry about that, because they said there's a purpose behind that mentality too. Because when you're going through a tough time and you are kind of struggling emotionally, they more often not rather you think of them in this kind of like, I don't want to say the word limited, but that's the closest term I can come up with, is it's more of a limited perspective where it's more 1 to 2, and maybe if you're lucky 3-dimensional of who they are, so you can get a different, like, you get a sense of different shades as the more the dimensional figure of who they are goes along. But if you're more at the 1 and 2, you're going to see more of duality tones of black and white, of good and evil, really stereotypical versions of them. And they said, like, that's okay if that's where you're at, because there's a good reason behind it. And you might think that doesn't make sense. It does actually for them. They know what's going on. They know your lesson plan. They're like, we had this plan. Don't mess us up too much, guys. So if you're like beyond that, right? And there are going to be times where you're going to go back to that. So don't think, oh, I'm better than those people. Like, no, because when you go through a tough time, you're going to like, open my book up. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. I can't think beyond this. Don't worry about it. But eventually what will happen is, as you learn the story inside and out, you're going to get bored, because we humans do get bored. You're going to open up, expand, and someone's going to knock on your door. Who is it? And there you'll be like, oh, hey, Mimir, welcome. Come on, sit down here. Would you like something? He's like, no, I'm just here for a little bit, but if you do have a little ale, I'll take it. I'm just one, though. I got to drive after this, no drinking and driving, please. And you bring him his drink. You'll be a hospital host. And he's like, oh, my God, it's Mimir. Oh, my God, it's Mimir. Mimir, what stories do you have to share with us? I'm super excited. And they're like, well, have you ever heard of the story of Loki, Odin, and the snake cat goddess? Ooh, you're going like, I don't think I heard this story. It's like, well, you kind of have, but you really haven't. Ooh. By the way, like, comment, subscribe if you hear anything you like. And so the story goes. A long, long, long time ago, back beyond the Norse, heathens, back before TV, guys, there was a little place, a little town called Bremfolk. I'm just giving it a name, guys. Bremfolk and a little boy and a little cat. And he really liked this cat a lot. He really did. But the cat wasn't everything you'd think it'd be. I mean, like, there's something a little odd about this cat. It had green eyes, a little shady character going on there. But he really liked this boy. He was very protective of him. He didn't really put up with a lot of crap from other people. So the cat would do his thing, checking out his territory. It's all clear. No one is here. No one is here to mess with my little boy. Who was this boy, you would ask? Well, it was Loki. Loki used to be a little boy, playing around in his mother's garden. Lofri was a lot younger then. She's still brimming with life. And every now and then someone would come to visit. This cat didn't like him at all, though. It was Odin. Odin would come by, look at the boy. Looks like his father a little. And Lofri would go, but he's more like me. She'd be sitting down on a rocking chair, back and forth, crocheting, creating knots and untying knots. And Loki would go to her and say, "Mother, why are you doing that? What are you doing that for?" She showed him what she had so far, and she asked him, "Do you think the cat would like this?" "No, I don't think the cat would." And the mother said, "Do you like this?" "No, I don't like it." Finally, she came up with another answer, another question. "And what about the gray beard that came by?" "He might like it." Excuse the noise, by the way. And that's when Loki knew he has sense about things. He knew things. He knew that what she was making wasn't meant for him, but for Odin. But why was this for Odin? And she smiled. She smiled. She smiled because she knew the truth. That one day would come a day where her light would burn out. And she needed to create enough of a treaty of good vibe between these two boys, two figures. She knew her light would go out. She would be reborn, but we wouldn't know when, how, where, none of that. I mean, all she knew was that for the time being, when the light went out, darkness would fall. And for a little while, these two would be really important to each other. So she gave the hat that she made to the boy and said, "Go off with you with your cat and bring this to Odin." So he runs like little boys do. And on his journey to Odin, the cat comes across the stream with the boy. They play for a little while. They get a little lost in their minds and their hearts and enjoy a little bit of what's going on around them. They're having a really good time, splishing and splashing, splishing and splashing. But they don't see the storm that's coming. They don't really recognize it. And I don't think Loki really knew that that was his last time to see Lofri. He didn't know. Why would he know? And in fact, we don't really know what happened to Lofri. What happened to Lofri? She disappeared completely. But at this point, Loki doesn't know that. He just knows that he's doing an errand for his mother. So he continues his way and eventually comes across a battleground of fighting. He's a little scared at first. He hides and finds a way to continue his path, despite how frightening the sight of red is. His guardian cat keeps a close eye on him throughout his entire journey and helps him and shields him from things. His cat has a sense of something that Loki might have no choice but to face. Some unfathomable thing, some frightening truth eventually at some point. And so eventually they get to where they need to go, to Odin's little fortress, but it wasn't as big as legends would say, because it hadn't yet become much of anything. It was just wooden sticks and mud. Odin wasn't yet the All-Father that everyone would brag about later and say, I'm gonna go to war for this guy or whatever. You know, I mean, like, he was just like a small god at that point. You know, things were very tribal and everything was divided. You know, everyone is out for themselves, fighting. God's lifespans were a little shorter back then, but we didn't know that. Only the lucky few gods would survive and live for centuries upon centuries to thousands of years. Can you imagine? I mean, they're still living longer than us, but even they didn't have the lifespan of immortality. That thing didn't exist yet. And so he comes to Odin, and he doesn't know why he has this aquamarine hat with a weird, odd blue square in it. Like, what is this? But Odin knows. Odin knows this is his parting gift from his first wife. She's gone. There's no more Lofri. He's sad because he actually did like her. But he knows that the storm is coming. Things are changing and shifting to more 1 to 2 dimensional thought waves where we can't grasp the fullness of who they are. And they're going to have to find a way of surviving in the minds of humanity so they can do some real good in the long run. So he raises Loki along with his sons, his other sons of his other wives. And eventually things start changing. Where Odin's not as nice to Loki, and Loki's not as nice to him either. And they become enemies. But that hat is a sign of something. It's a sign of something long forgotten, of some kind of level of hope, of a bridge between the black and the white. It allows different shades to occur, to think outside of what is known. Over time, that cat shifts into something different. And it turns into a snake. And that snake turns into Loki, into more of his godhood. Because that cat was him all along. There are different versions of Loki across time and space. We just always hear it. It's like an echo sometimes. Hello, hello, hello. Do you hear me, hear me, hear me, hear me, hear me? Have you ever looked in a mirror and there's a mirror behind that mirror and you can see that mirror and that mirror within that mirror within that mirror? And eventually there's a portal that opens when you listen and you look in the mirror. And you start pondering outside of the 2-dimensional thought waves. And you start seeing the dimensions, the depth, the grays, the rainbows. And you realize something. You realize that they were never really out to get each other. They just knew something that we didn't. Which was at the time of that early human history. Was that we were scared little kids who had lost the sacred divine mother. She was invisible, hidden, secret. Sometimes she would pop up for brief periods of time, but then she'd be squashed away. And they knew that in order for the sacred divinity of the All-Mother to continue. She had to find some knots in us that can become undone later. Where Loki, because he was the key to it all, because he has elements of both man and woman. He can shift into a woman, which means that he shifts back into law free, because he's a part of her. And so the Divine Mother comes out of him and is reborn. And Odin starts remembering who he really was in the wholeness of all this majestic story. And then he starts whispering things to the other gods and to us and saying we need to give them the most sacred of sacred truths of light and love. I'm going to stop right here. You like the divine theater. It's always going to be constantly changing and shifting, at least in the upper levels of it all. It's there to teach you something, to reflect our humanity in these divine beings. And it's often that we lost parts of ourselves along the way, got buried away, and now it's being re-earthed out, allowing to breathe air. There's a forgetting period that's ending, and a remembering period is going to be occurring. So feel free to take this as a channel message if you want, but it's more of, I will say yes to that, but it's more of a divine theater play coming to life for you. The divine spirits, the all of their versions are whispering things to me. And sometimes I have to share it because it's pretty awesome. And why not? Why keep it to myself? And if you're confused about this channel sometimes, I wouldn't worry about that too much. It's just that if you've seen the Hindu gods, Durga becomes Kali. Durga becomes Lakshmi, and the same thing with like all these, they have, Shiva can become Vishnu and Krishna. It's confusing, right? But we have all these different parts of who we are, and once we start accepting all these parts, we can stop thinking in black and white terms and actually start truly accepting ourselves and liking ourselves and actually being open and receptive and ready to new information that can actually help us transcend further into the remembering phase of who we are. I hope you liked what you heard, and I wouldn't worry too much of what you're becoming, because you will unravel naturally with Lofree's help, of course, because she's a pretty good goddess to go to if you need help with the knots in your soul. She will undo it. She will undo it and then remake you as best as you allow her. She will softly guide you into who you're about to become, because she's not about forcing you. She's just about guiding you. Love and light, Mary, meet, blessed be, amen, to good health, to losies. You're on it.